You couldn't believe it. Humanity's strongest soldier, Captain Levi himself, injured? The concept was so alien to you that you couldn't wrap your head around it. The expedition had gone on once again with us was a failure. No surprise there. After all these years in the scout regiment, you'd be far more surprised if you had a mildly successful result at the end of it all. But even still, this particular event had ended worse than your previous adventures outside the walls. This time, the almighty captain himself had suffered an injury so serious it sent him into a coma. Despite accompanying the regiment on the expedition, you only ever heard of Levi's injuries once making it into the walls. Your own wounds had been fairly severe, and the ride back home was all but a blur to you. So, when you finally regained consciousness, you searched for your boyfriend when he wasn't at your side. It was a great shock to you that he had been sent to the hospital immediately after arriving. You were so shocked, in fact, that regardless of your own poor condition, you sprinted to where he was taken in a severely sprained ankle and two fractured ribs. It was painful. Dear God, it was painful. But the idea of him being hurt was so distressing to you that you would have gladly walked through fire just to see him well. Once making it to the hospital, the doctors had assumed you were there for treatment and promptly carried you away, despite your protests. Not surprisingly, the stress you had put on your already battered body had made your wounds even worse than they already were. You waited impatiently for them to treat you and cursed your body for not having a regenerative factor. You didn't care about your health, not when Levi was in such a critical condition. Many hours had passed, and once the clock struck 12, most of the employees had gone home to their families, much to your delight. It would be easier to sneak around the halls when the hospital wasn't flooded with thousands and one nurses. You pulled yourself out of bed and slowly but surely searched the empty halls for Levi's room. You had no idea where he'd be or what number his room was, but and ended up spending damn near 45 minutes just to look for him. When you had finally made it to his location, you crept into the room and stared at his unconscious body laid out on the bed. His breaths were even and steady, if a little slow, and to you it just looked like he was asleep. You would have believed it too if not for the blood-stained bandages wrapped around his head. How a Titan managed to get the best of Levi, you'll never know. You pulled up a chair and sat at his side, holding his hand in yours. You intertwined your fingers and gazed sadly at him, hoping that he would show some sign of being okay. All you wanted was for him to give a little squeeze. That's all. That would be enough to tide you over, to soothe your panicked consciousness. But he didn't. He continued to lie there, as still as the emptiness of the hospital itself. It unnerved you to see him in such a condition. "Hey, Levi," you whispered, half hoping your voice would be enough to rouse him. "I don't know if you can hear me right now, but since you can't tell me to get out either, I'm gonna take my chances." Your lips pulled into a frown as your fragile fingers traced uneven patterns on the skin of his hand. "Get your ass out of this bed soon, Captain. You can't afford to laze around like this. Humanity needs you. I need you. If you don't heal up, then I will be very cross with you. So stop being a slacker and get well soon, okay? I'll wait. Many days passed, and your routine only ever consisted of sitting at his bedside and taking an occasional bath. The last thing you wanted was for Levi to wake up to you smelling like a corpse. You barely ate any food in your time with him. You simply weren't hungry. You weren't tired either. You just felt like you were in the stasis, like you were existing but not living. But how could you live? The man you cared for most had been bedridden and in a comatose. Not a damn thought that crossed your mind didn't consist of his well being. You sluggishly hunched over on the chair by the window, reading some trashy romance novel to make the hours seem shorter. It did little to distract you though. Most of the things you read just got you picturing laughing at his foolishness with Levi. Well, you'd be laughing anyway. Levi didn't have that function. You sat upright in your seat when you heard the rustling of bed sheets beside you. Levi? You called, looking over to him as he shifted in his position. His brow crinkled at your voice. A hopeful smile crept its way onto your visage as you called out again. Levi, come on, wake up. He groaned, causing you to carelessly drop the book onto the floorboards and kneel on the side of his bed. Come on, stop sleeping already. You've already had enough rest. His eyes reluctantly peeled open, only to come face to face with you. Fuck, he grunted. I've got the biggest headache right now. You breathed a sigh of relief, and to be honest, you felt as if you'd been holding your breath the entire time. You grabbed him and pulled him up into you in one swift motion, hugging your arms around his torso and planting light, quick kisses on his face and neck. One of his hands came up to rest on your shoulder blade, while the other found its way to your lower back. He flinched lightly at the repetitive display of affection. God damn, how long was I out? 2 weeks, you replied, still clinging to him like your life depended on it. You scared the shit out of me, you asshole. If you do that again, I'm breaking up with you. We wouldn't want that, would we? His hand met with the one on your back, and gripping slightly, he tugged you down to join him in bed. You buried your face in his chest and pressed firmly against his body. Oh, how you missed the way his arms would wrap themselves around you. To think you'd gone 2 weeks without his warmth, it was absurd. But now, in his embrace, did your mind feel at ease again. Levi? You mumbled. Hmm? Don't do that again. He languidly dragged a finger up the curve of your back. I won't. Now shut up and go to sleep, idiot. You look like you haven't slept in days. You gladly did as he said, and it wasn't long before you had dozed off in his arms, gaining the much needed rest your body had ached for. When the doctors entered the room later that evening, they were quickly turned away by the captain, who had taken it upon himself to ensure that you had gotten the uninterrupted sleep you needed. Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed that one. So while you're here, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.